The common thing I heard from government after government official over the past 2.5 years is, we're all in this together. We're all suffering the pain of the pandemic together. Well, it seems that the financial devastation that the overhanded response by all levels of government caused from coast to coast wasn't felt equally by everyone, according to a recent Epoch Times story. In fact, it was quite the opposite for executives and upper management folks in the federal government, who were paid in excess of a whopping $190 million in bonuses during the pandemic year of 2021, an inquiry of ministry tabled in the House of Commons shows. According to Blacklock's reporter, the largest payout went to 295 executives that made up 96% of upper management at the Department of Justice. $17.9 million was allocated among them, and not a single account was frozen, I'm sure. A total of $5.5 million went to the managers at the Office of the Governor General Secretary, the Communication Security Establishment, Economic Development for Quebec, Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, and Financial Transactions and Report Analysis Center. Wow, that's a lot of organizations. At 23 other federal departments, 95% of the top staff, executives, or those with qualifications above executive received bonuses as well. This included the departments of Heritage, Finance, Fisheries, Foreign Affairs, Indigenous Services, Infrastructure, Justice, Public Safety, Public Works, and Transport. I think they forgot pilfering and theft, that department. Oh well. Canada has a world-class public service with employees committed to providing the highest level of service to Canadians, Treasury Board President Mona Fortier wrote in the inquiry. In fact, Canada's public service is recognized globally for its quality and effectiveness, not to mention their compensation, right, Mona? The bonuses were referred to as performance pay. There's an oxymoron in government. Fortier said such incentive plans are common among Canadian private and public sector company executives. The inquiry did not provide details about which individuals received payments. Sure differs from the government propaganda that these fine folks are the salt of the earth public servants working themselves to the bone for their fellow Canadians during a very tough time, eh? According to Blacklock's, access to information records from Crown agencies have identified bonus payments as routine, get ready, regardless of results. So results don't matter, performance, schmormance. That's right, nothing to hear, you schmucky taxpayers. It's just routine. In 2020, the Canadian Tourism Commission paid its executives $32,652 each, even though tourism was highly restricted at the height of the pandemic, while laying off 9% of its staff as well. Makes sense in government math, though. You don't want to save any money for the taxpayers. Just reallocate what have gone, to the 9% to those that are more in need, the people doing nothing from home. The CBC paid out $30.4 million in pandemic bonuses and still sought more subsidies. Well, why wouldn't they? CBC, cash buys coverage. Hey, CBC, a new one. Blacklock's reported that the public broadcaster paid out $15 million in bonuses in 2020 and $15.4 million the following year. But guess what? They still complained about being under immense pressure and requested $21 million to supplement the annual $1.3 billion government grant it receives. No, folks, it's not a government grant. That's our $1.3 billion of tax dollar folks that we're sending to these pontificating buffoons. In a separate article, Blacklock's reported that on September 27th, Senator Percy Down proposed an amendment to the Broadcasting Act that would force the CBC to disclose the top salaries of announcers and executives. He said, anyone who received a salary higher than a senator, who basically senators make $164,500 a year, should have their salary disclosed, and such transparency would benefit all Canadians. We only know that 5 CBC staff earned between $250,000 and $300,000, with an average salary of $342,000, Down said. No names, no programs. Down said top earners at the British Broadcasting Corporation have a wage disclosure mandate. As a public broadcaster largely funded by taxpayers, I'd say primarily funded, the CBC has a greater obligation than private broadcasters to be open about how it spends that money, Down said in the Senate. With all due respect, sir, it doesn't matter how private broadcasters spend their money if they're not getting any tax dollars. I do, though, care how these leches and leeches spend their money. I wouldn't hold my breath, though, Percy. But maybe if you were to say some of these big wigs had ties to freedom-loving truckers, I'm sure Trudeau and his lackeys would pull out all the stops and make disclosure a reality. It's not fair to ask struggling taxpayers to pay higher taxes so the taxpayer-funded CBC can give itself millions in bonuses and pay raises during a pandemic, said Franco Terrazzano, federal director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, according to Post Media. When it comes to feeding at the public trough, Franco, I'm afraid these swines couldn't care less. Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can follow me on my Rumble and my Locals account, and I will see you next time.